let's talk about what real companies look like. Let's look at a couple examples of missing middle companies and what happens if you fill in that missing middle. Aggro Supply. It's in Uganda. They sell seeds to farmers. How many companies in Africa sell seeds to farmers? I've never seen that market research, but it's a very large number. These guys have an interesting business model, but that got my attention. But they were selling seeds to 5,000 farmers by the end of 2019. They were earning just shy of $100,000 back then, and it was year 3. Year 1 was 2017 and a lot smaller. Okay, so the growth was good, but the company was still pretty tiny. $100,000 is not super tiny, but not huge. How many people out there? You can throw your answers in the chat window. How many of the investors out there even bother to look at companies that earn slightly under $100,000 in a year? I don't know very many. At the Land Accelerator, we run an investment panel once or twice a year. We bring in lots of investors to talk on it. I usually moderate it. I ask them, what scale of company are you looking for? And really rarely, I think one ever said under $100,000. Usually it's 250 or 500,000. Usually it's $1 million a year. So here we got a company that earned $100,000, was looking for some money. They were profitable, by the way. And what could you do? Well, Fledge gave them $20,000, and Africa Eats got started in 2020, and we lent them $50,000, and they doubled. And that's good. They got to be much bigger. I like doubling. Doubling, the 100% growth in a year is good. 50% growth in a year is good too. I like to see the companies get bigger, and doubling is like a nice and fast pace. I don't want to go faster than that, but it happens. So here we go. We got a company now. It's $200,000. We started touting this to institutions, just a few hundred, not one or two, but I know a few hundred institutions. I started touting this one and some others to the institutions, and how many showed up to help them? Yeah, 0, because it's a company. It's got $200,000. It's been around for 4 years. It just doesn't look big enough. But what every institution missed but us is that the next year was $1 million. And no, it wasn't $1 million because we gave them 800,000 or $1 million or $2 million of capital. We gave them a little bit more. There's a few $100,000 in lending in here and a teeny bit of equity. But they grew tenfold from 100,000 to $1 million in 2 years. And it's not a fluke. They're still going. It'll be $2 million this year. This is what happens when you give the right amount of money to the right company at the right time, plus some help. And it's not a fluke. This is not the only one. I have a dozen. I can't fit all the stories into this hour, but here's another one. We met them at the same period of time. They were in the same cohort at Fledge. And so here's a company. It's a dairy company in Tanzania. And they too were, this one's just over $100,000 a year. 4th or 5th or 6th largest in the country. There's some really big competition, right? They were doing one thing different than everyone else, but nothing that no one could copy. There was no big moat or chance of monopoly or anything that the normal VCs looked at. I talked to this entrepreneur. I said, what do you need to double? He said, we're at capacity. He said, my pasteurizer is being fully used. I need another one. And I said, well, how much is it going to cost? And literally, this happens to me all the time. I'm literally talking to him in Zoom in real time. And I say, what do you need? And he says, it's expensive. I go, yeah, okay, that's nice. How much? I have to import it from India or China, wherever it was from. And I go, yeah, okay, I understand. I've done this before. How much is it going to cost? And he said, it's more than we have. I go, yeah, I know. I'm an investor. That's why I'm here. How much is it going to cost? And he just doesn't want to answer the question, but I finally got the answer out of him. By the way, this is the pasteurizer. This is a picture of the actual pasteurizer, and it landed in Tanzania, $15,000. So he couldn't grow his company from 132 because he was missing $15,000. That's it. Like, he had profits, but he didn't have that scale of profits. So what did we do? We gave him $20,000. And why was it 20? Because that's what Fledge does. It does $20,000 checks. If he needed 25, it would have done that. If he needed 35, it would have done that. In fact, we got him $65,000 that year in total. What did he do with $65,000? He turned it into a company earning $1.2 million in a year. 9-fold growth in 1 year, which was as stressful as it sounds. I don't advise that scale of growth, but he had a really good year. And then he didn't ask for anything the next year. He said, I just need to recover from the previous year. That was stressful. And we said, fine. If you don't want anything, we won't give you anything. It grew to 1.9 million without him pushing on it. And it'll be down a little this year because there's a drought in Tanzania, but it's not going back down to 132. It's going back down to somewhere between 1.2 and 1.9, and then we'll get it to 4 and 5 and 6 in future years. We did this on $65,000. That's the missing middle. In this case, $65,000, not $5,000, not $200,000, not even $100,000. Okay, let's go. Just do another one. This is from Rwanda. So this young entrepreneur applies to Fledge in 2016. He's got a little tiny meat processing company. We say yes, and the U.S. government wouldn't give him a visa. Happens sometimes. It's really annoying because we used to do these programs in person. So 2017 comes around, like 6 months later. We used to run twice a year. We invite him again. The U.S. government wouldn't give him a visa. So frustrating. But luckily, I had a program in Peru. So of all places, I sent this Rwandan to Peru to get training and to get money. And so at 2017, he's in year 2. He's got a tiny little company earning $35,000. He's like the 4th largest meat processor in the country of Rwanda. And his total list of equipment, I remember this interview as well. What do you have and what do you need? I have a sausage stuffing machine. So I'm picturing like industrial grade sausage stuffing machine, on a large amount of stainless steel and all that. No. He had one hand cranked sausage stuffing machine, and that's it. That was producing $30,000 worth of business plus some hamburger meat and some other stuff. Who else here would even bother talking to this guy? This is again the missing middle. No one wants to talk to a guy with a tiny little business doing sausage in Rwanda of all places. But I do, because I like helping these people and I know how to fill in these gaps. So what we do? We gave him, before I even get that, he shows up in Peru and I show up in Peru to meet him, and he has a second company. And he started a second company because he, at $35,000, ran out of commercial grade animals. So he started a company to grow the animals. And he promised me it would make no money for years, and he fulfilled that promise. So this company had zero revenue in 2017, and again in 2018, 2019, 2020, made some money in 21. But by the time we got to 21, it had thousands of animals. It's a great business model. You just have to be patient. So what do we do? Well, Peru only gave $15,000. So I matched that, and we gave him $15,000. And I told him, split it between the two companies any way you want. I don't care. You know best, not me. And so we split it like, I don't remember, 7 and 8. Smaller amount went to the livestock company. But it went to the live. Some of the money went to the livestock. But we're talking $15,000 total across two companies. And then he asked a few years later for maybe 10,000 more. And that's it. That's all we ever put in this company was like $25,000. Two companies, sorry. It was about $25,000. And by 2021, that was about $800,000 worth of companies. Profitable. I always talk revenues. I don't talk profits. But it's profitable. And we merged them back together this year. On nothing, on what most institutions just spend flying their due diligence teams around. We got this company to $1.4 million this year as a single company. But that's not the whole story from this one. This one gets even more exciting because in 2020, he, because of the lockdowns, he had 4 trucks. Rwanda has more than one city. He was exporting to Goma and DRC. It's a little more complicated than like in Tanzania, where you just have to serve Dar es Salaam, or Kenya, where you just have to serve Nairobi. The population spread around a little more in Rwanda. So he had 4 trucks and he was moving all his stuff around in 5 cities plus across the border to DRC. And when the lockdowns hit, he couldn't do that with his own meat. There were some restrictions. So he spun out his trucks into a logistics company to try and earn some money. And it earned a little bit in 2020. And then for the year of 2021, it earned $500,000. And that was pretty good. So we invested in 2022 into this company. It looks like this now. This company has all of 8 trucks. And it's not just serving Rwanda. It's serving East Africa from Rwanda. Like most of these routes are hub and spoke. Most of this is somebody wants to import something from Dar and bring it to Rwanda, or they're growing chickens in Rwanda and export them. Something like that. So the trucks are going down to Zimbabwe and Zambia and up to Kampala and out to Nairobi and so forth, moving food around this region. And so what's this company done? It'll be a $1.6 million company this year on $200,000 of capital. And logistics is a capital intensive business. And yet we're earning $8 per dollar invested. That's what happens when you find the right company and give them the right money at the right time. Okay, and let's finish off these stories with one more. This is the oldest one in my portfolio, the first native African I worked with. It was 2014 when I met him. He had just finished year one. So year one was $100,000 of revenues. He did that on $4,000 of capital of his own money. And in year one, this was the largest fruit and vegetable aggregator in the country of Tanzania, which is crazy. Like, how did the country go for 50 years without a fruit and vegetable aggregator? I don't know. But this 24-year-old at the time decided to fill in that gap. So what we do? We gave him, I think it was 17,000 back then. I don't think we were at 20 yet. And then we got him a Kiva loan, and then some angels stepped in. In total, we got him $67,000 of capital. That's it. That's all I could find for a Tanzanian entrepreneur in 2014. That was all he needed to get $2 million a year. He didn't do it in a year or two. It took him a little longer, but he got past $1 million a year by 2019 on $67,000 of capital. And then once past $1 million, the institution started talking to him. He's raised a few million since then, which is nice because it'll hit 11 million this year. So this is the first company that I've worked with that will be 100 times bigger than when I started working with them. And they're not going to stop at 11 million. That'll be what they do this year. Next year, 20 something year or 30 something and onward. And this is still the biggest fruit and vegetable aggregator in Tanzania by far now. The number two is some small guy with a truck and 100K a year.